It began with a promise whispered through telescopes and televised dreams that somewhere beyond the blue haze of our home, another world waited for us. Red, silent, and ancient, Mars became the mirror to our ambitions. A planet that looked just barren enough to invite conquest, just close enough to make us believe that, with enough courage and funding, it could be made to bloom. For generations, Mars was more than a planet. It was a story, a blank canvas upon which we projected our faith and progress. Scientists spoke of terraformers and domes. Entrepreneurs spoke of tickets and timelines. Artists spoke of sunsets that fell twice as fast, and cities carved into canyon walls. But beneath the poetry of it all lay a physics that would not yield, and a biology that would not forgive. Mars has no air we can breathe. Its atmosphere is 1% the thickness of Earth's, a near vacuum, composed mostly of carbon dioxide. The sky there is not blue, but butterscotch, tinted by endless storms of electrostatic dust. The soil is poisonous, laced with perchlorates that corrode and desiccate organic life. Its cold is not a chill, but an absence of heat, where the midday sun is too weak to melt frost, and its magnetic field, once strong, is long dead, leaving the planet exposed to cosmic radiation that seeps through bone and DNA. Yet, we still call it the next step. We imagine domes of glass glinting under a pale sun, hydroponic gardens thriving in recycled water, and astronauts turned settlers carving out a new civilization. We rarely linger on the math that shows how impossible that truly is, that every gram of breathable air, every drop of drinkable water, every calorie of food must be manufactured and maintained in perfect mechanical balance. A single failure, a single tear in the chain of life support, and the world outside rushes in to reclaim what was never ours. The human body, too, begins to fail in subtle ways on Mars. Blood thickens, bones hollow, muscles atrophy even with constant training. The heart reshapes itself to beat in a place where gravity is only a whisper of home. And after months of confinement, the mind begins to drift, unable to forget the color blue, the sound of rain, the breeze that once moved unseen across skin. Still, we reach, because Mars has become a mirror for our own longing, a symbol that we can outgrow the planet that bore us. We forget that every ecosystem, every atom of air and water, every bacterium and leaf evolved together in an equilibrium that no machine can yet reproduce. Earth is not just a home, it is a closed symphony. Mars, by contrast, is the pause between notes, the silence where no song can play. The dream persists not because Mars is possible, but because it flatters the idea that humanity is destined to transcend limits. We prefer the myth to the mathematics, but the universe, as always, does not negotiate with belief. And so our first colony will not be on Mars. It will be on the edge of endurance, built from illusion, dismantled by time, and remembered as the first great echo of human overreach. Space has a way of reminding us what words like far really mean. On a map, Mars seems close, a neighbor just a few lines away in the celestial blueprint. But distance, in the language of space, is measured not in kilometers, but in consequences. Even at its nearest, Mars is 55 million kilometers from Earth, far enough that light itself takes minutes to cross the void. A radio signal sent from mission control arrives 14 minutes later, and any reply returns another 14 after that. A conversation becomes a memory. A warning becomes an obituary. Real-time control, coordination, rescue, all dissolve into delay. The orbits of the planets conspire against us too. Earth and Mars are only favorably aligned every 26 months. Miss that narrow window and the next launch must wait years, at immense cost, drifting momentum, and fading public patience. Every cargo mission, every supply run, Every return flight must obey those windows or risk being stranded. A Mars colony would not live in constant communication with Earth. It would live in tidal exchanges of opportunity, separated by long seasons of silence. Fuel, too, dictates its limits. Every kilogram that escapes Earth's gravity well demands exponential energy. The rockets that carry us to Mars must be built on Earth, launched from Earth, and fueled with resources mined and refined here. The dream of a self-sufficient colony collapses under those equations. Steel, plastics, circuits, fuel cells, food, antibiotics, all of it must come from home. Mars gives nothing freely. It offers dust, ice, and stone, and the crushing realization that even survival demands a permanent lifeline to the planet we left behind. Then there's time itself. A journey to Mars takes 6 to 9 months under ideal conditions. Every expedition is a slow drift across interplanetary emptiness, where speed becomes a liability and precision becomes religion. Even minor trajectory errors can magnify into catastrophic misses. And for every ship that leaves, another must wait to return, consuming years, not weeks, in cycles of patience that few human institutions are built to endure. We forget, perhaps, how fragile our logistics already are on Earth. The global trade network, with its ports, schedules, and satellites, is a miracle of proximity. We move food, medicine, and microchips across oceans, yet a few weeks of disruption on our own planet creates scarcity. Now imagine that network stretched across millions of kilometers, through radiation storms and shifting orbits, with a 14-minute delay between send and received. The colony we imagine on Mars would not be a frontier. It would be a dependency. Not a bold new nation, but a life support project held together by radio signals and resupply schedules. Every dome, every rover, every breath would be a reminder that distance is not just space. It is a form of exile. We are a species born of feedback. We learn by touch, by sound, by the immediacy of others. But Mars will not answer when we speak. It will only echo back the truth we already know, that for all our engineering, we still live at the mercy of orbit and time. Every living thing on Earth evolved within a narrow range of balance. Gravity, pressure, temperature, magnetism, radiation. Every beat of the human heart, every firing neuron, every rhythm of breath is tuned to a single planet's conditions. And Mars, for all its familiar color, exists beyond the reach of that balance. On Mars, the surface radiation is roughly 100 times higher than Earth's. Every moment under that pale sun, particles from deep space slice through cells and chromosomes, accumulating damage that no sunscreen or shielding can fully stop. In orbit, astronauts can spend 6 months without consequence. On Mars, 6 years might rewrite their DNA. Cancer, sterility, neural decay. These aren't risks. They're certainties stretched thin by optimism. Then there's the gravity. Mars pulls with only 1/3 of Earth's strength. At first, it might feel liberating. Lighter steps, easier motion. But the body soon learns the cost. Muscles forget their tension. Bones leach calcium. The heart, built for resistance, loses tone. In time, the body reshapes itself for weakness. Returning to Earth would be like falling into a world too heavy to survive. Even if technology could prevent death, it could not preserve what we understand as human normalcy. The air, too, conspires against us. Mars offers no true atmosphere. Only a whisper of carbon dioxide thin enough to let water boil at body temperature. Any human breath there would freeze, boil, and suffocate in the same instant. Inside the domes and habitats, air must be manufactured molecule by molecule, balanced perfectly in ratio and humidity, recycled endlessly with no error allowed. Life becomes a loop of engineering. Oxygen scrubbers, CO2 filters, humidity traps. Each one an invisible tether to the edge of extinction. Even the dust is alive in its hostility. Razor-fine particles cling to every surface, charged by static fields and laced with perchlorates, chemicals that destroy organic tissue on contact. The very soil that might grow our crops instead poisons them. Every breath of dust would scar the lungs. Every touch would corrode the skin. There is no soil to till, no rain to fall, no microorganisms to recycle death into life. Mars is sterile, and that sterility is merciless. In such an environment, the human microbiome, the unseen ecosystem within us, begins to collapse. Our bacteria, our immune systems, our digestive flora, all evolved for Earth's air and water. Sealed in domes, fed on hydroponic diets, exposed to cosmic radiation, the body's balance falters. The settlers we imagine are not pioneers but patients, trapped in a medical experiment without a control group. And yet, every problem of biology leads to an even harder truth, that human life is not a technology. It is a context. We are not separate from Earth. We are an extension of it. Its gravity, its oxygen, its bacteria, its cycles of light and dark, all of it exists within us as surely as blood or thought. When we speak of bringing life to Mars, we imagine exporting Earth's miracle as if it were a product. But life is not cargo. It is an ecosystem of one. To colonize Mars is not merely to survive. It is to attempt to rewrite biology itself. And so far, the experiment has one unavoidable result. Earth makes humans. Mars unmakes them. If the body begins to fail on Mars, the mind soon follows. Not through madness, but through erosion. A slow wearing down of meaning, color, and connection. On Earth, even the most isolated places hum with life. The air moves, trees breathe, the horizon curves with familiarity. On Mars, there is only silence. A silence so complete that it presses on the ears. A place without weather, without sound, without change. Days pass under the same butterscotch light, shadows barely shifting, stars unmoving through thin skies. The human mind, wired for variation, begins to starve. In the first months, settlers might call it peace, the stillness, the sense of control. But the quiet turns heavy. Every sound inside the habitat, the hiss of air filters, the hum of pumps, the faint creak of expanding metal, becomes amplified. Each noise is a reminder that nothing outside can sustain you. The world beyond those walls is not a view, it is a void. Communication delay deepens the isolation. A message home takes minutes, sometimes hours, to receive a reply. There are no live conversations, no laughter exchanged in real time, no reassurance in another's immediate voice. Every connection is a ghost, every word a recording of a person who has already moved on in time. Friendships fade, not through distance, but through desynchronization, the slow unraveling of shared moments. And within the colony itself, tension blooms. Every face is familiar, every disagreement magnified. Privacy vanishes in confined habitats where walls are thin and routines are fixed. Leadership becomes fragile. Authority must be obeyed yet resented. Boredom breeds friction. Friction breeds division. History has shown it before. Isolation transforms cooperation into paranoia, and idealists into exiles. Even the circadian rhythm begins to drift. Mars rotates in roughly 24 hours and 39 minutes, just long enough to confuse the body clock, never long enough to reset it. Sleep falters, dreams blur. The difference between morning and night becomes arbitrary. Some may adapt, but most will begin to lose track of themselves in the endless monotony of red. Psychologists call it the cognitive horizon, the invisible limit of how far the human mind can function without replenishment from the natural world. On Earth, nature resets us, wind, rain, the chorus of life. On Mars, there is no horizon that gives meaning, only a perimeter of metal walls and dust beyond them. The settlers will invent rituals, artificial sunrises, virtual forests, recorded birdsong, but none of it will substitute the sense of belonging that comes from a living planet. Mars offers no audience, no mirror. It will never look back at us. And when humans realize that, truly realize it, the colony will begin to unravel not from hunger or malfunction, but from despair. Because the hardest distance to cross is not between planets, but between solitude and sanity. There comes a moment, late in every human endeavor, when ambition meets the edge of reality. For Mars, that moment arrives not in catastrophe, but in clarity, the quiet understanding that the planet does not want us, and perhaps never did. From orbit, Mars looks almost merciful. Its vast plains and canyons seem to invite exploration. Its ice caps shimmer with the promise of water. But step onto its surface, and the illusion breaks. The dust cuts like glass. The air burns the lungs. The cold devours warmth faster than any fire can give it back. Every sunrise brings not renewal, but reminder that this is not a second Earth, only a fossil of what might have been. Terraforming once sounded possible. Melt the poles, thicken the air, release greenhouse gases to warm the world. But even the math mocks us. There isn't enough CO2 in the crust to make a breathable sky, nor enough magnetism to hold it if we did. The planet has no pulse to quicken, no metabolism to feed upon. It is not asleep. It is finished. And yet we keep writing our names across its surface. Rovers, probes, landers, plans. We speak of it like destiny, as though our leaving Earth were inevitable. But destiny is not physics. It is mythology, dressed in technology. Every new launch, every glossy rendering of a domed city, is an echo of an older story, that we can outgrow our origins without consequence, that progress can exist without humility. But Mars answers in its own way, through the silence that never changes, through the thin air that erases footprints, through the endless cycles of dust that swallow every trace of our presence. No matter how much we dig, build, or dream, the planet remains what it has always been, indifferent. In time, the colonies will fail quietly, not in fire or explosion, but in attrition. The domes will darken. Communications will fall silent. Years later, orbiters will still pass overhead, watching as the dust smooths over the remnants of human geometry. The lights will fade, and the planet will reclaim its perfect stillness. And perhaps that is the truest message Mars has ever offered us. Not an invitation, but a reflection. A reminder that our home is not wherever we plant a flag, but wherever life itself can breathe. The greatest frontier is not another world. It is the understanding of how rare and fragile this one truly is. We look to the stars and imagine conquest. But sometimes the universe speaks most clearly through the places that will not yield. And Mars in its silence says everything. You were made for Earth, and Earth is enough.